Yesterday, I went to a coffee shop, and I tried to sound confident in English. I looked at the barista, smiled, and said, "I will take a coffee, please." The moment the words left my mouth, I felt something was wrong. She paused for a second, gave me a polite smile, and handed me the cup. But inside, I knew I had just said something strange.
Let me guess. You meant to sound natural, but instead it felt a little awkward, right? Because in everyday English, we usually say, "I'll get a coffee," or "I'll have a coffee." That tiny difference between get and take can completely change how natural you sound.
Exactly. And the worst part is, I've made that mistake more than once. Sometimes I say get when I should say take, and other times I say take when I should say get. It feels like a small mistake, but it makes me lose confidence when I speak.
If that sounds familiar, stay with us. In this episode, we're going to show you a simple mental trick that will help you understand get and take once and for all. By the end of this conversation, you'll know exactly which one to use in real life.
Welcome back to Speak English Every Day, the podcast where we help you sound more natural and confident in real-life English conversations. I'm Tony, and like many English learners, I still make small mistakes that can feel a little embarrassing in everyday situations.
And I'm Sara. If you've ever felt nervous ordering food, asking for directions, or just having a simple conversation in English, you're in the right place. This podcast is designed to help you learn the kind of English people actually use every day, not just what you see in textbooks.
Exactly. Because sometimes the grammar is correct, but the sentence still sounds strange to native speakers. And that's exactly what happened to me yesterday at the coffee shop.
Let me guess. This is about get and take, right?
Yes. Those two tiny verbs that look simple, but cause big confusion. I've mixed them up so many times that now I feel nervous every time I use them.
You're not alone. Many English learners struggle with get and take because in some languages, they translate to the same word. But in English, the feeling and the situation are different. And today, we're going to make that difference crystal clear. No complicated grammar rules, no long lists to memorize. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident using get and take in everyday situations.
I have to admit something. Last week, you corrected me 3 different times, and each time it was about the same problem. Get and take. It happened at the store, at breakfast, and even when we were talking about work. I didn't realize how often I was mixing them up until you pointed it out. And the worst part is, every time you corrected me, I felt that little moment of embarrassment like I should already know this.
That's completely normal. These two verbs look simple, but they carry different feelings in English. Many learners think they're interchangeable because in their native language, both verbs translate into the same word. So naturally, they use them the same way in English. But native speakers don't think about them as direct synonyms.
That makes sense because in my head, both of them just meant to obtain something. For example, when I said, "I'm going to take a new phone," I really meant that I wanted to buy one. To me, it sounded logical. I was going to get a phone, so I said take. But when you heard it, you immediately knew it sounded wrong.
Yes, because in English, take often gives the feeling that you're physically grabbing something or actively choosing it. It can even sound like you're taking it without permission. That's why when you say, "I will take a phone," it can sound like you're just going to pick it up and walk away with it.
Now that you say that, it really does sound like I'm stealing it. No wonder the salesperson looked a bit confused. In my mind, it was a simple sentence, but the feeling behind the word was completely different.
Exactly. That's the key idea here. The dictionary definitions might look similar, but the emotional tone and the situation change everything. English relies a lot on these subtle differences. Small verbs like get, take, have, and make carry specific meanings depending on the context.
I think that's what makes it frustrating. You learn a word, you understand the translation, and you think you're using it correctly. But then in real conversations, it doesn't sound natural. It's like you're speaking correct English, but not real English.
That's a great way to describe it. And it happens because language isn't only about translation. It's about how people actually use words in everyday life. Native speakers don't think about the translation, they think about the situation and the feeling behind the verb.
So the problem isn't really the words themselves. The problem is how we imagine the action. If we imagine the wrong action, we choose the wrong verb.
Exactly. And that's why instead of giving you a long grammar rule, we're going to use a simple mental image. Once you understand that image, the difference between get and take becomes much clearer. All right, Tony, let's make this really simple. Instead of thinking about grammar rules or translations, I want you to imagine a picture in your mind. Think of get as something arriving at your door, like a package or a letter. You didn't go out to grab it. You didn't chase it. It simply came to you. You open the door, and there it is. That feeling, something coming toward you, is the core idea behind get.
So with get, I'm not the one doing the action. I'm more like the receiver. I'm standing there, and things just come into my life. It's almost like I'm a magnet, and different things, like a job, a message, or even a feeling, are being pulled toward me.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to think about it. Get is like being a magnet. Opportunities, messages, feelings, and results come toward you. You receive them. You don't physically grab them. The action is happening in your direction.
I really like that image. It feels calm and passive. I'm not chasing anything. Things are just arriving, like mail at my door. So if I say, I got a message, it's like the message traveled to me.
Yes, that's the idea. Now let's look at take. For this one, imagine a cookie jar on a table. You walk up to the jar, open it, reach your hand inside, and grab a cookie. That's take. You're the one moving. You're the one doing the action. You're actively choosing and grabbing something.
So take is the opposite direction. Instead of things coming to me, I'm going toward them. I'm reaching out and taking control of the situation.
Exactly. With take, you're actively doing something. You take a shower, take a break, take a photo, take the bus. In all these cases, you're making a decision and performing an action.
So if I compare the two images, get is like standing at home and receiving a package. Take is like walking over to the cookie jar and grabbing a cookie. And I think that's why I will take a coffee sounded strange. Because it sounds like I'm reaching over the counter, grabbing the coffee myself, and walking away.
Exactly. But when you say, I'll get a coffee, it sounds natural because you're receiving it. The coffee is coming to you.
Wow. That one image already makes everything clearer. I don't feel like I need a complicated rule anymore. I just need to remember the magnet and the cookie jar.
That's the goal. If you can remember those two images, you'll start choosing the right verb naturally, without overthinking it. And now that you understand the core idea, let's look at some real phrases with get so you can see how this works in everyday English. Alright, now that we have the mental picture, let's move into some real-life phrases with get. Remember the main idea, get is about receiving something, entering a state, or reaching a result. Think of it as the magnet effect, things come toward you instead of you grabbing them.
I like that idea already. It feels less stressful because I don't have to memorize a rule. I just imagine the situation and see if something is coming to me or if I'm going to it.
Let's start with a very common phrase, get a job. When we say get a job, we mean that we receive a job opportunity. Maybe we applied, went to interviews, and finally the company offered us the position. The job comes to us as a result.
So if I say, I got a new job last month, it means I received that opportunity. The company chose me, and now I have the job.
Exactly. You're not physically grabbing the job. You're receiving the result of the process.
That makes sense. It's like waiting for a letter that says, "You're hired." The opportunity arrives at my door.
Next phrase, get married. This one is very important because it shows how get is used for life changes. Marriage is a state you enter. It's not something you take with your hands.
So when someone says, they got married last year, it means they entered that new state in their lives.
Exactly. They received the status of being married. Now let's talk about feelings and physical states. For example, get tired.
This one feels very natural. I never decide to be tired. It just happens to me.
Exactly. The feeling arrives. You receive it over time.
So if I say, I get tired after lunch, it means the tiredness comes to me every afternoon.
Perfect example. You're not grabbing the tiredness. It just shows up. Next, get home. This phrase is about reaching a destination. The important idea here is the final result, you are at home.
So when I say, I got home at 7 p.m., I'm talking about the moment I arrived.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how you traveled. The focus is on the result. Now let's look at get ready. This phrase means to move into a state of readiness.
So if I say, I need to get ready for work, I'm talking about changing my condition, from not ready to ready.
Exactly. You're receiving that new state.
It's like I'm moving into the ready zone.
Next are get better and get worse. These are very common when we talk about health, weather, or situations.
So if someone is sick, I can say, I hope you get better soon.
Yes. The improvement comes to them.
And if I say, the weather is getting worse, it means the bad conditions are arriving.
Exactly. These phrases describe changes over time. Now let's talk about communication. We say get a call, get a message, or get an email.
Because those things travel toward me, right?
Exactly. You receive them.
So if I say, I got your message this morning, it means the message came to me.
Perfect. That's the magnet idea again. Here's a very useful everyday phrase, get it. This means to understand something.
I hear that all the time in movies. Someone explains something, and then the other person says, "Oh, I get it now."
Exactly. The understanding arrives in your mind.
So the idea travels into my brain, and suddenly everything is clear. So if I remember the magnet image, I can choose get more naturally.
That's the idea. Keep that image in your mind, because now we're going to move on to phrases with take, where you are the one doing the action. All right, now that we clearly understand get, let's move on to take. Remember the second mental picture, the cookie jar. With take, you're the one moving. You're the one reaching out, making a decision, and performing an action. Nothing is coming to you. You go toward it.
So with take, I'm not the magnet anymore. I'm the one walking across the room, opening the jar, and grabbing the cookie myself.
Exactly. That's the perfect image. Take is active. You choose, you move, you act. Let's start with a very common daily routine, take a shower.
So we say take a shower because I actively step into the shower and do the action.
Yes. You're performing the activity. The shower isn't coming to you. You're going to it.
So if I say, I take a shower every morning, it means it's part of my routine.
Exactly. You're actively doing it each day. Next phrase, take a break. And it's a good example of how take shows a decision. You choose to stop working. You actively step away and rest.
So if I say, let's take a break, it means we decide to stop and rest for a while.
Exactly. You're grabbing that moment of rest for yourself. Now let's look at take a photo.
That one feels very physical. I pick up the camera, point it, and press the button.
Exactly. You actively capture the moment.
So if someone asks, can you take a photo of us? They're asking me to do the action.
Yes. You're the one creating the photo.
And if I say, I got a photo of the sunset, that focuses more on the result, right?
Exactly. Take is the action. Get is the result. Next, take time. We use this when something requires time.
So if I say, this project takes a lot of time, it means the project needs time to be completed.
Yes. The activity uses up time. And when someone says, take your time, it means don't rush. Use as much time as you need. Now let's talk about take advice.
So that means I accept someone's advice and actually use it.
Yes. It's an active decision. You don't just hear the advice. You apply it.
So if I say, I took her advice and applied for the job, it means I followed what she said.
Exactly. You acted on it. Next phrase, take medicine.
This one is very physical again. I actually swallow the medicine.
Yes. It's a clear action. So if the doctor says, take 2 pills every morning, that's a direct instruction. Now let's talk about transportation. We say, take a bus, take a taxi, take the train.
So I say, I take the bus to work every day.
Yes, because you actively use that form of transportation.
I choose it, I board it, and I ride it. So I'm performing the action.
Exactly. That's why take is the natural verb here. Another common one, take notes.
So this means writing down information while listening or studying.
Yes. You're actively recording the information. So if a teacher says, please take notes, it means we should write things down.
All right, Sarah, now that we've talked about the mental images behind get and take, I think it's time to look at the mistakes learners usually make. Because even if you understand the idea, it's very easy to fall back into old habits, especially when your native language uses a different verb or structure. And I know this happens a lot when people try to translate directly in their heads.
That's absolutely true. Many of the most common mistakes happen because learners translate word for word from their first language. But English doesn't always follow the same logic. So instead of translating, it's better to think about the situation and the image behind the verb. Let's go through some typical errors and see how to fix them.
Okay, let's start with one I've heard many times. Someone in a restaurant says, "I will take a coffee." It sounds correct to many learners, but native speakers usually say, "I'll get a coffee."
Exactly. The problem here is the direction of the action. In a cafe, the coffee is coming to you. You're receiving it from the barista. So the natural verb is get, not take. When you say, "I'll take a coffee," it can sound like you're physically grabbing it yourself and walking away with it. It's not wrong in every situation, but in everyday speech, get sounds much more natural.
So the better sentence is, "I'll get a coffee." That fits the idea of receiving something.
Right. Now here's another very common mistake. Some learners say, "I took a message from my friend." But in English, we usually say, "I got a message from my friend."
That makes sense. The message came to me. I didn't go out and grab it. So again, the direction is toward me, which means we should use get.
Exactly. Take would only work if you were actively removing the message from somewhere, like taking a note from a desk or taking a document from a file. But if a message arrives, by phone, text, or email, you get it. Wow, Tony, what a journey today! We covered so many phrases with get and take, explored their differences, practiced them with real sentences, and even went through some common mistakes. I feel like my brain is buzzing with all this English knowledge.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel like a light just clicked on in my head. Before this episode, get and take were always confusing. But now, with our magnet and cookie jar images and all those examples, it just makes so much sense. It's like all the pieces finally fit together.
Exactly. And that's the magic of visualization plus practice. When you combine clear images with repetition, your brain starts automatically choosing the right verb without overthinking. That's what we want all our listeners to feel, confidence in using these everyday English phrases naturally.
And remember, listeners, it's completely normal to make mistakes. Even native speakers correct each other sometimes. The important thing is to keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep listening. Every small step you take brings you closer to fluency.
Absolutely. And here's our challenge for today. Try to use at least 3 get phrases and 3 take phrases in your conversations over the next 24 hours. Whether it's talking to a friend, sending a text, or even thinking out loud to yourself, practice makes permanent.
And don't forget to engage with us. Leave a comment and tell us, which get or take phrase do you find the most confusing? Or which one did you finally understand today? We read every single comment, and we love hearing from our listeners because it helps us create better episodes tailored to your needs.
We'll see you in the next episode with even more practical English tips, phrases, and real-life examples.
Bye,
everyone. Keep practicing, and we'll help you speak English more naturally every single day.